Good morning, folks. We are going to get started. I know the best thing about conferences is to talk to the folks that you meet here, but if you might just please hold on for a little bit. We're not going to take much of your time here this morning. I know we're all anxious to get this thing started, but we're so pleased to have you here. My name's Robert Maggiani. I'm with an organization called NCAT. We're one of the hosts for of the conference. I'm not going to try to go over all the different folks that are involved in this because it's a real team effort. This is a project that's funded by USDA, NRCS, so obviously we're very pleased that they decided to pick us to do this with them. I know there's a number of people here from NRCS. I see Stacy right here, who's a state con. And so, Christy, I'm sorry. Christy, thank you for being here. I do want to just point out the folks from NCAT that are here. I can't quite see. I'll just mention them briefly. As I mentioned, I'm Robert. My coworker is Luz. Luz here. Luz Ballesteros. You've probably seen her downstairs. I have some other coworkers from out of state. Martín Guerena, ¿dónde está? Ahí está Martín. Omar Rodriguez, ¿dónde está Omar? I don't see him. Anyway, we thank my folks, NCAT folks, from coming out from out of state. I just want to point out real quickly, hopefully y'all have seen this program. Isn't that a work of art? This is really, Luz is the designer and the real principal author of this, so I'd appreciate if you go say, thanks to Luz for putting this all together. It's a real difficult job to put something like this together, especially as, for folks that have been involved in conferences. 2 days before, the conference comes, we get a lot of changes. Well, I got so-and-so coming from my agency now, and someone else is not coming. So trying to put all of this together with really evergreen information is quite a task. And as you can see, Luz really se aventó, right? This is really amazing. It's a work of art. And so we appreciate Luz putting this together. This is the main way of communication for all of this. You can see where all the different rooms are. This is the third floor ballroom. This is where we're going to have all the plenary sessions like today, like right now. We're going to come back up here for lunch after the first workshop session, right? We're going to have a session tomorrow also here. This is really a 4-day event. We've kind of got 3 different things happening together that we've been able to kind of put together. The first 2 days, we're going to focus on farmers and ranchers because this is a food system event, and obviously food systems start with the farmers and ranchers, right? So you guys are in the spotlight for the first 2 days, and we just want to honor you and thank you for being the providers of all the food that all of us are able to eat daily. We all obviously participate in the food system because we all eat. And so the first 2 days are going to be farmers and ranchers. We're going to put the spotlight on you and all the organizations that are here that serve farmers and ranchers. We're going to try to tell you about some new resources that we have. USDA has a lot of new programs that have happened over the last couple of years, a lot of funds that are going to be flowing through, a lot of different projects, a lot of different agencies that you'll hear about over the next 2 days. I think you'll be impressed with what USDA is doing for, frontline farmers and ranchers. And then over the course of the event, we're going to kind of pivot a little bit and focus on what I call other actors in the food system. As you can envision a food system, we've all seen those diagrams, right? The food system starts with farmers and ranchers and kind of moves to the intermediary actors of the people that procure and move and transport and process and all of those things that are done with food to get it to the places where we eventually consume it, whether that's in restaurants or in schools. We're going to have a big event tomorrow afternoon that focuses on farm to school. Because obviously, all of the success that we want for farmers and ranchers, the way you do that is when they grow things, this great food that they grow and produce, they got to sell it somewhere, right? And so that's what we're going to talk about over the following days. How and where are they going to try to sell it? Because, the best way to keep all of this urbanization from not happening is to keep you farmers and ranchers in business, right? That's the best way to do it. And that's kind of the bottom line for us, is to keep farmers and ranchers successfully in business. So NCAT, we're one of the hosts. UTRGV, Colin is the co-director of their Sustainable Ag and Rural Advancement Center. He's going to talk a little bit about what they've been doing over the years. It's been a great co-involvement with us and UTRGV over the last 10 years, right, that we've been doing stuff like this. If some of y'all will remember, we had a conference much like this pre-pandemic, and so we're so glad to have all of y'all back here. I love to see an audience where I know kind of half of the people and I don't know half of the people. That's where I think is a really good mix, because I can see that, some of the folks that we've been working with are still around and doing good things, and we got half that I don't know, which means that we got more people, paying attention and learning, and so we can learn from each other, right? I really like that mix. So I don't want to try to mention everybody that is really involved in this. Southern SARA is another big sponsor of this event. We have a Texas Center for Local Foods is a state-based organization that's a pretty big sponsor of the event. You'll see them in the program. I don't want to try to start mentioning everybody, because sure enough I'm going to forget somebody. So again, I sure appreciate on behalf of NCAT, and I'll let Colin get up here and say a few words, and then he's going to introduce Dr. Green from USDA, and then we're going to get back to the conference. So thank y'all.
Thank you, Robert. Thanks everyone for being here. For those who aren't aware, there are interpretation services both for the plenary events and for the breakout sessions down on the second floor. So we're in the plenary room, breakout sessions are down below. Where can whoever has access to the headphones, the interpretation headphones, raise a hand? Are in the back corner? Outside? They're in the outside. They're in the hallway right now. UT Interpretation, the Department of Interpretation and Translation and Interpretation is assisting with that. So I'd really like to give a round of applause for that. It's a great assistance. And so just to kick off the interpretation, buenos días, bienvenidos a todos. My name is Colin Kane. I'm co-director for the Center for Sustainable Agriculture and Rural Advancement at UTRGV. We have a very longitudinal room here. I'm going to try to hit all four quadrants with my movements. Our center serves as a hub at the university, connecting the resources, the intellectual resources of the university with agricultural and rural communities throughout South Texas and the Rio Grande Valley by way of community-engaged research, education, and outreach. On behalf of our center and our staff that are here, we're about 20 strong right now. I'd like to just say how grateful and excited and thankful we are to be here with everyone today. Everyone in this room really represents a key sort of constituency, a key member of the food system in the state of Texas, nationally, and here in the Rio Grande Valley. So it's what a wonderful opportunity it is just to have an audience and to sort of break bread and shake hands with all of you. It's really an honor, and we are very proud to be able to do this work alongside everyone in this room. Next, I'd like to thank NCAT, Robert, Luce, everyone from the NCAT team for basically going out and getting funding for projects like this, for conferences like this, and for hosting and for inviting us to participate. Robert, thank you very much. Yeah, very much. And USDA, there are a bunch of USDA folks here. Again, it would probably take 45 minutes just to name them all. But overall, thank USDA for, again, supporting South Texas agriculture, Rio Grande Valley agriculture, and for funding conferences like this, events like this. And it is through grant-funded projects that we at SARA are able to have a platform to participate in events like this. So we are very appreciative of that. Finally, I would really like to recognize local partner organizations who are present, farmers, ranchers, food entrepreneurs overall. Again, I could point out sort of one by one, but specifically I'd like to welcome Hope, Diana, and Saul that are in the audience. Thank you so much for being with us today. From El Paso, Nifi, Amelia, who is here with us as well. Thank you, Amelia, for being here. Sentley out of Edinburgh. I'm not sure if Shakira is here right now, but Shakira is going to be with us later on during this event. I'd like to thank them for partnership very much. And Texas-Mexico Border Coalition, also a really, really important local organization supporting farmers and ranchers along the Texas-Mexico border. They've done incredible work over the years, so I'd really like to thank, and Gilbert's in the audience. I'd like to give him a shout out over there. Gilbert, thank you very much. The ag sector in the RGV, represented by the producers, the food entrepreneurs, the ranchers who are present here today, is deep and varied. We're talking about a variety of products. We're talking large, medium, small. We're talking mom and pop. We are talking large corporations. We realize how precious farmers and ranchers' time is. We have designed this event to be as productive as possible and ultimately try to provide return on investment for the time spent with us. So thank you so much for dedicating the time to come out. We recognize that. And again, we're going to really be focused on providing information and content and contacts that will hopefully allow you, again, to operate and grow sustainable businesses. Overall, our SARA team, we are excited to be here today because it provides another opportunity to help our local farmers and ranchers to launch, grow, and sustain healthy farming and ranching businesses, and to shine a light on their needs and concerns, as well as helping to cultivate a robust and fair food system here in the Rio Grande Valley. As everyone here knows, agriculture is a central pillar of the economy and the geography of the Rio Grande Valley. It has been for decades. Anyone who isn't familiar with the area, you get in a car, you if you could exit this hotel in a car, which you can't, make an immediate right-hand turn on Main Street, drive about 150 yards, make a left on Business 83. Business 83 goes all the way to Harlingen. It's about 40 miles. There are train tracks along the road the entire way. You will see the remnants of the food system, what was previously considered the food value chain. We talk about it as a food system. You will see the packing sheds, the produce companies that populated that area and was really connected to the train system that helped farmers and ranchers succeed in the Rio Grande Valley for decades and decades. If you travel, I guess maybe 7-8 miles south, maybe 5 miles south of here, along Military Highway, which runs parallel to the border and parallel to Business 83. Again, it goes all the way out to Cameron County. You will see their modern equivalents. You will see, larger, diversified vegetable producers headquartered down there. You will see new agricultural logistics and packing companies down there. You will see very impressive new cold storage facilities that are really significant investments that have happened over the last decade that, again, are physical assets that represent really the centrality of the Rio Grande Valley to the agricultural production and distribution system, not only in Texas, but nationwide. It's very impressive. And along with those physical assets, the representatives here of the farming community are really the backbone of that. That's the physical sort of asset part, but y'all are the sort of human element of that, really, with the passion and the perseverance to sort of get all this stuff done. However, as most producers represented here today can really attest, agriculture as a viable practice in the RGV, in Texas, nationwide, is facing a few existential challenges. Supply chain resilience, market failures, persistent drought, increasing input and infrastructure costs, just to name a few. Most of the producers that we at SARA work with face these challenges head on, again, with passion, leading with passion and persistence. And for us at SARA, we see it as our responsibility, as our duty, to work shoulder to shoulder with local producers, finding pathways to sustainability through needs-based research, education, and high-touch technical assistance. This participatory, partnership-heavy approach is illustrated by a few SARA projects. I'm not going to name them all, but just a few, just to illustrate the sort of scope and scale of what we're talking about here. They include the UTRGV, the Texas Rural Cooperative Center, and the Beginning Farmer and Rancher Development Project, led by Annalise Lotman and Juan Regosa. I'm not sure if they're sitting here, but if they are, shout out to them. And they are helping the next generation of RGV farmers collectively address supply chain failure issues, just to sort of name one of the issues that they deal with. The Hub of Prosperity, which is led by Alex Rosales, Stephanie Casper, leveraging the passion of UTRGV students to provide mobile conservation education via regional partnerships, like really deep regional partnerships. There's also the Climate Smart Commodity Agri-Solar Project, which is led by Rafael Almeida, who's not here because he just had a child, and Dr. Angel Pereira, who is seated right over there, that help local farmers manage greenhouse gas emissions while developing sources of alternative farm income. And last but not least, the recently launched Rio Grande Colonias USDA Regional Food Business Center, implemented in partnership with Texas A&M University and other local partners, on which I serve as co-PI, which target technical assistance and direct financial resources towards Colonia communities and other underserved areas along the Texas-Mexico border region. These collective, again, these are just sort of like illustrative. This is just scratching the surface in terms of the types of projects that we are trying to support and that we're trying to get involved in, but also represent just some of the work that the partners here are also involved in, really demonstrate UTRGV, but the regional commitment to develop and deliver community-focused approaches to some of the big economic, environmental, and social challenges that we face as a region. And before departing, again, I just want to thank local producers. It all starts with y'all. Thank you guys so much for the hard work. It's really humbling to see the work that's done and to work alongside you. I'd like to again thank USDA for the support for local agriculture here in the Valley, and again for UTRGV for allowing us to do this work at a local UT branch. This doesn't happen at most universities throughout the country. Certainly not in Texas. Again, this is a sort of we started small, we've grown a little bit, but it's fairly niche, and we're really, really thankful for UTRGV for allowing us to do this work. It's an honor to do so. And I would very much like to thank SARA staff, who are extremely hardworking, dedicated professionals. We're, again, about 20 strong right now, and it wouldn't be possible without them. I would name their names, but that would take a little while. And I very specifically want to recognize Aisha Cruz Reyes, who should be speaking right now, but said she didn't want to speak, so I told her that I would embarrass her a little bit. Aisha has done extremely, done a lot of work over the years. She's well known by most of the people in this room, and she is a star. And a lot of this is possible because of the hard work that she's done. So I just want to say thank you, Aisha, and give her a round of applause. And so I'd like to hand this over to USDA Deputy Undersecretary for Farm Production and Conservation, Gloria Montaño Green. Gloria.
Good morning. Buenos dias. As was mentioned, my name is Gloria Montaño Green. I'm the Deputy Undersecretary for Farm Production and Conservation. Before I go a little bit further, if I could just have the individuals that work at USDA that are in the room, please stand so you could be recognized. These are the These are the individuals from USDA, some of them from Texas, some of them from outside of the state, that work to be able to provide resources and customer service, engagement, collaboration. Think about your conservation planning support. For those that were standing, make sure to make contact with those individuals, and there'll be more over the next 4 days as they come forward. I want to also thank the Natural Resource Conservation Services, specifically Natural Resource Conservation and Services in Texas, that has been providing the funding to be able to have this collaborative, cooperative effort. Unas palabras breves en español, no los voy a decir todo en español porque soy poquito pocha, pero a veces es importante hablar en nuestro idioma bilingüe. Yo soy Gloria Montaño Green, soy la subsecretaria adjunta del Departamento de Agricultura. En nombre de la misión es directamente para los agricultores. Entonces, muchas gracias por estar con nosotros, venir a este evento y también trabajar con nosotros, que a veces no hemos trabajado muy bien en diferentes idiomas, la colaboración, pero lo que está pasando aquí en Texas es algo muy bonito para aprender y seguir haciendo en diferentes partes del estado y del país. Muchas gracias. So I introduced myself. My name is Gloria Montaño Green. I am the Deputy Undersecretary of Farm Production and Conservation. I only did a few comments in Spanish because while I'm bilingual, I definitely switch brains mid-sentence on a regular basis. So hopefully I'll stay in one language at the moment. So you guys are going to have a lot of conversation with agriculture. In this community, you get to speak quite a bit and think about it. You get to think about agriculture and feeding the community all day, every day. Not everybody in the world, in this country, in the region, gets to think about that. They have to rely on you every day. So the resources you're going to be learning is learning from each other over the next few weeks, learning about great funding opportunities, technical assistance opportunities over the next few days, and then also having an idea of where U.S. Department of Agriculture is able to do in the community, or potentially where we need to be able to learn about some of our programs of investments. So first, I'm going to be able to say a little bit about what USDA is, because it's very complicated. And sometimes I think about making sure accessibility is how do you remove the complicated whenever there's many things going. I'm not going to tell you the hundreds and hundreds of programs that USDA offers. That's a first level of complication, but it also means for every person in the room, your needs are so distinct that you fit into programs, and we have to kind of figure out how to serve you. That's why it's complicated. So I think about it and how we break it down in very boxes. USDA has 8 mission areas in which they focus on specific areas of support. And there are going to be various individuals that you're going to talk to throughout this project, throughout these next 4 days, that are going to be able to talk to you about food and nutrition, or agriculture and marketing, or local food and development. The part that I get to work in is farm production and conservation. We are 2,900 offices, 22,000 employees across the United States and its territories that are focused on farmers and ranchers. We look at disaster programs, safety net programs, conservation planning, farm loans work, and just those various, those nitty-gritty and crop insurance and risk management tools. We get to think about agriculture and farmers and ranchers directly. That's who we engage with, and private forest landowners, because we know we got a lot of that in Texas. Yes. So that's, when you're looking at USDA and you're going to hear lots of soups of acronyms, don't get frustrated. Understand that there are some different programs that have to happen in our traditional aspects that might meet your needs. You might have a soil conversation. You might want to have a conversation about water resilience. You might want to have a conversation about organic. You might want to have a conversation about housing. There are different things that we're able to do. It's one of the most beautiful departments because we can address your needs. So for me, I get to work with an FPAC. Within it is the Natural Resource Conservation Services, Farm Service Agency, Risk Management Agency, and an operations arm called the Business Center. There are colleagues here from the state and regional that are to be able to have conversations, so make sure to stop at their booth to be able to think about the work that we're going forward. We do a lot of engagement. Under this administration, I'm a Biden-Harris appointee. We've been focusing a lot on technical assistance and technical assistance dollars and cooperative agreement dollars. Because sometimes that technical assistance is you coming into our service counter office, and sometimes it's going to having conversations with NCAT and SARA, and that's going to be the person you want to listen to first, and they have relationships with us to help with that translation. And I'm not making language translation. I'm thinking about that access language, that access conversation, to be able to think of, you've been with me in the trenches, you've been with me in the soil, how do you help me go to USDA and to be able to understand how to move forward? We've been investing a lot of technical assistance, some of it within our respective program work, and then some of it based on opportunities that we have given because of not just the Farm Bill money, which is what we implement. We have to implement laws. We implement the Farm Bill, but we've also been implementing the American Rescue Plan Act and the Inflation Reduction Act at the moment. And the American Rescue Plan Act is that food system transformation work, that regional food system that you've been, are going to hear a lot more about and get discovering. And to be able to think of how are we working on building that foundation of local food and local agriculture, and knowing there's a lot of things we need to do to strengthen it, and there hasn't necessarily been those investments to be able to support it. So that's what the American Rescue Plan means. It's a language, it's a law that Congress passed, but it gave us money and direction to be able to invest in specific areas of support. And so you're going to be hearing a lot more about what that means specifically, the funding that came to the Valley, as well as those are in your neighboring states, which is also to have collaboration of where can we best learn from each other moving forward. The other is the Inflation Reduction Act. Within the Natural Resource Conservation Services, we all know that sometimes you've gone into that office and your EQIP has been oversubscribed, and you might have been on the wait list for a few years. There's also other things that have maybe been not as much funding. The Inflation Reduction Act invested $19.5 billion over 5 years, over 10 years, right? But with specific dollar amounts to be able to put specific research on how you're doing climate mitigation work. But what that means is when you go into your NRCS office and sign up for EQIP and sign up for Conservation Stewardship Program, or think about a regional project with RCPP, you get to be able to have a better opportunities and more funding available to you. But the work that's going to happen to you is you sign up, you're still going to get a conservation plan that's going to be based on the needs that you have in your local community. Some of it might be funded by the Inflation Reduction Act because of the regulations and the requirement there, and others might just be funded from the Farm Bill. So I invite you, I think the deadline has passed in Texas for some of the sign up, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't go into your office and start thinking about EQIP, because we're gonna have a continuous list moving forward. And we currently have Regional Conservation Partnership Program available. And it's a competitive grant process, but one of the things to consider is how can you collectively get into one project and do some of the conservation needs to be able to help an entire landscape. The other thing that we're doing is pretty exciting, and I think is a conversation that many of you are going to have with small farmers, is I don't have access to land. I don't have access to capital, and I don't have access to market. How do I do that? And sometimes it's not fully USDA that's part of that solution. With the Inflation Reduction Act, we received funding to be able to do a first time, and hopefully Congress will look at the great results or the need. But we did $300 million for about 50 projects to help small producers, upcoming producers, or individuals that want to grow to get increase to access and capital market. One of the projects is here. Hope actually is a fundee of that project, so congratulations for them to getting it. More to come, but it's to be able to provide that technical assistance to be able to think, how is that that connection, and how are we able to, how are you as the organization able to help provide that with some federal funds moving forward? The other aspect is we're doing urban agriculture. Last summer, had a great visit that the university and local community took me to go see some urban agriculture. And honestly, it took 20-minute drive outside of this area. And probably most of you would not call it an urban area. But what urban ag for us is to be able to think about how are we serving agriculture differently. And it might be that quarter-acre lot. It could be a 3-acre. It could be in the middle of, like, you know, across the street from the bank that you're going. But we have to think about how we understand agriculture is agriculture, and we have to service it. So there's been a large investment with urban ag. And I will say that probably here in Texas and South Texas, with your urban conservationist work, thinking creatively to be able to meet and have those conversations has been something to be able to learn. And I'm just going to say, we've been doing these investments, we're not perfect. And in some ways, we're actually having to learn where there's some barriers in our programs. Some of that means statute changes, some of that means program decision-making changes, and sometimes it's, you know, it's just limitations that we have. And that brings us to one of the other components that's here is the Equity Commission. So the Equity Commission at USDA did a really robust in February set of a report. You guys might hear about it a little bit more in the conference. And for me, it's a roadmap of how USDA can remove its barriers to increase access, be it for a small farmer, a Latino farmer, a veteran farmer, a beginning farmer, an urban farmer, a specialty crop farmer, organic, or you name it. Sometimes our programs haven't really fit the mold. And we have recommendations that came from the Equity Commission to say, here are ways that you can improve servicing. Dr. Raceles, where did you are? Right, is a member of that Equity Commission, who's very strong in bringing forward the work that he has and understanding. We understand USDA as a resource, but USDA has to be able to meet these types of communities. And so for us, it is how are we removing the barriers? How are we increasing access? And how are we moving things? And I'm just going to close, right? Because sometimes, you know, dime con quién andas, te diré quién eres. You got to know where people are from to be able to figure out. I'm a first generation high school graduate, right? And my family. My story is probably similar to many of the students in this room. I'm a first generation American. My dad came across as a, he used to bus broncos and, like, you know, herd ranches and kind of stuff. Cruzó de ranchero, right? Somos el rancho. First generation to graduate high school. And the first generation in my family to actually say, government is a place where I can make a change. And I think I might be the first deputy undersecretary that's Latina to be able to do this. And I say that because when I do the work is you think about access and that I should not be the first and there should be more in front of me and more behind me. So the work that we do and the work that you're having about these conversations, think about it. Our USDA might be complicated. USDA has a lot of resources and has been investing on how to change and invite people in, and that includes a lot of student investment. So thank you for the invitation. Thank you for the collaboration and for the willingness to collaborate and have trust with USDA as we move forward on supporting agriculture. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria, and again, thanks to all of the USDA folks that are here that are really helping us make a success of this conference. The next I guess thing that we're going to do on the agenda, as you could check again by the program, is on the second floor. We have the 3 breakout workroom sessions. We did divide the content of this conference into 3 what we call thematic tracks. And again, it's just a way of trying to, there's a lot of different kinds of producers that Gloria mentioned that we're trying to help serve. And so we've divided it into farming, ranching, and then again, using the new NRCS phraseology, urban agriculture and innovative production. So in the workshops that you'll see down on the second floor, we'll have 5 sessions over the course of these 2 days. If you want to go to the urban ag content, you'll be in that same room for all 5 of those sessions. Okay, the same thing for farming, same thing for ranching. So we're going to start our workshops down here on the second floor in a few minutes, and you're just going to have to pick. So thanks for coming, and let's do this.